a statement that 99% of the time it was you or your husband, you're saying that Casey watched her more often.
Casey watched her more often. Casey, when I would come home from work, I would be there.
Right.
And I would not necessarily watch Kaylee, but Kaylee was in the same house.
I understand.
So unless Kaylee, unless Casey was gone from the house, then I didn't have to quote unquote babysit her.
I understand that.
And on the weekends. So if I'm, working Monday through Friday, 40 to 50 hours a week.
Okay. Now, and if your understanding is that Casey doesn't have a full-time job during this time period, if she wasn't watching her and your husband wasn't watching her and you weren't watching her, did you all have any other babysitter during this time period?
There was different people that babysat Kaylee.
Well, let's go ahead and kind of go on back on that. Would one of those people be Lauren Gibb?
Yes,
and what
but
time?
Not in 2008.
Okay, well, I appreciate you clarifying. Let's go on back. Lauren Gibb would have...
Lauren Gibbs.
Gibbs, I'm sorry. Lauren Gibbs would have babysat her when?
Right after Casey went back to work, which was 3 months after Kaylee was born.
Okay, so do you know how long a time period was that Lauren Gibb watched her?
Lauren Gibbs watched her probably till about January, roughly. I can't say for sure on the dates.
January, what year would that be?
2006.
Right. And do you know if she was ever compensated or paid for watching her?
I don't believe so. Lauren did that as a favor because she was Casey's best friend.
And as far as other people in that same category, people who did it because they were friends with either you or your husband or the family, who else would be in the category of, let's call them babysitters? Who else would there be?
I know her fiance at that time, Jesse Grun, watched Kaylee. He watched her either at his parents' home or at my home. I know his father, Richard Grun, and his father, his mother, Deborah Grun, watched Kaylee for Casey while Casey would work. I know that Christina Chester watched Kaylee.
Okay.
Holly Gagne watched Kaylee.
Let me just stop you there. So we have Lauren Gibbs, Jesse Grund, and Jesse Grund obviously knew the family and knew you. Is that right? Mm-hmm. You have to answer out loud.
Yes.
And Richard and Deborah Grund, you knew them, and they also knew the family.
Yes.
Is that right? Holly Gagne.
I'm
sorry, ma'am. Holly Gagne. You know her as well.
Yes.
And the family knows her.
Yes.
And then Christina, what was her name?
Chester.
Chester.
See.
You know her, and the family knows her as well.
I did not meet Christina Chester till, I met Christina Chester briefly when Casey was pregnant. I met her at a, Babies R Us, and that was the only really time that I had met her before. I didn't really know her that well. She was a schoolmate of Casey's.
Okay, fair. Somebody who knew Casey and you actually had laid eyes on and talked to. Is that right?
Actually, because I ran into her one day when Casey and I were shopping for Kaylee's things.
And it's your understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that Holly Gagne, the Grund family, and also Christina Chester, they all did it, again, because they were friends with the family and they weren't compensated. Is that right?
As far as I know.
Well, you certainly never paid them.
No, I didn't.
And you don't believe your husband paid them either?
No, I didn't. It wouldn't have been our responsibility to do that.
On that point, though, did Casey ever say to you that she's paid any of these people to watch her child?
We never discussed that.
So no knowledge if she did or not?
I never discussed it with her. It wasn't an issue.
Now, all these people, and again, we're talking about the time period when your granddaughter was from an infant through being a toddler. Of all these people, though, they were all people that you could reach out to and get a hold of if necessary. Is that fair to say? If something happened and there was something happened to either you or your husband?
No, that's not true. I never had Jesse Grunn's cell phone number. I never had Richard Grunn's cell phone number. I did not know where they live. I never went to their house. So no, that's not correct. I never had Christina's phone number. Lauren was the only one that I had her phone number for, and I knew where she lived.
Well, let me go on back, though. But you knew that Richard's first name and last name, Richard Grund, and Deborah Grund, Jesse's first name and last name, and you had actually met them.
Yes, I'm sorry.
You had actually met them, and they were people that you had, if they walked in the room, you would recognize them. Is that right?
Okay. Correct.
Now, have we covered all the people?
No.
Okay.
There was other friends of Casey's that watched Kaylee.
Okay. Now, the people that you know and that you've met, and all the people you listed for me are people that you know and you've met.
I wouldn't say I know them.
I understand. When I say no, I mean it like, like
I could identify them.
I've met you, and you can identify me. I can identify you.
I probably wouldn't have been able to pick out Christina again, except that we got close after Kaylee went missing. I would know her now, but prior to that, I wouldn't have been able to pick her out of a lineup.
Okay. Now, did you, at some point in time, these were babysitters. Was anybody of these in this group, were they ever referred to as a nanny?
No.
Okay. And you're understanding that a nanny is somebody that's compensated or paid for their services.
You're assuming that's my understanding of a nanny. I really have never thought of what a nanny is. A nanny is someone that helps watch a child.
All right. Well, in your experience, and a nanny generally, and I correct me if I'm wrong.
Jesse's the one, excuse me, that started calling Zanny the nanny. Okay, Casey's called her the babysitter. So the nanny came from the Gruns.
Fair enough.
Okay.
And we're going to get, I haven't even gotten there yet,
okay.
So I know you're fast forward into that, and we are going to get there.
I just don't see the relevance.
I understand, ma'am. We're going to get there in a moment. So of all these people, though, it's fair to say that the babysitters that you've listed for me are babysitters you knew, and if push came to shove, you could get a hold of them somehow. If something happened to you, your husband, or Casey, you could get a hold of these people.
I'm not sure at the time if I could have gotten a hold of the Gruns without contacting Casey. You know, there was other people. I saw pictures of Jeffrey Hopkins, the other gentleman that Zenaida watched, Zanny watched, her son Zachary. I saw a picture of Zachary and Jeff. I could pick them out because I've seen pictures of them.
All right. Have you ever seen a picture of Zanny?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Now, I just want to clarify a couple.
But I have a picture in my head.
I understand
from
that,
descriptions for the last 2.5 years.
Unlike the people that you listed to me, because you've never met Zanny, I assume you can't tell me what she looks like from your own personal observations. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So this isn't somebody that, if something had happened to you yourself or your husband, that you had a method of reaching out and get a hold of.
Actually, I had phone numbers for Zanny at different times, and I had addresses at different times.
Okay, why don't you tell me the phone number?
I don't have it now.
Where is it?
I don't have it now.
Where would it have been?
Would have been in an address book, something that Casey had or I had.
All right, so when you say you had, let me just get this straight. You had addresses and phone numbers of Zanny. And Zanny, as you understand, when you're saying Zanny, I just wanted to make sure. Zanny's the person that you were saying was watching.
Casey always gave me a phone number, yes.
Okay. And these phone numbers, though, you're saying that they are in existence and you've written them down somewhere in an address book and they're out there somewhere to be found. Is that right?
I gave all that to the Sheriff's Department.
Okay, so then the Sheriff's Department will have all that.
I gave it all to the Sheriff's Department.
And that would include the addresses of any of this
Anything
person.
that I had, I gave to the Sheriff's Department.
Okay, so the phone numbers, do you remember, area code of them?
No.
Okay, how about the address of, for instance, the part of town where the address was?
From my knowledge, Casey told me there was like 4 different addresses over the course of 3 years, that she moved quite frequently.
And these 4, the addresses then, and the phone numbers, they all came from Casey?
Yes.
Did Zenaida or Zanny, the person that you believe was watching Kaylee, did she in any way provide to you a phone number or an address?
No, never needed to talk to her.
Did she?
I never needed to talk to her.
If the need arose that you needed to talk to her or get a hold of her, you would have had to go to these addresses and phone numbers that Casey gave you. Is that right?
Correct.
Did you ever dial or call or talk to this person?
No, I have not.
Okay. And let me, I just want to clarify some things. And we have some things here that I'm going to ask about this, and I just want to clarify so we're clear on a couple different things.
Babysitter. So let me ask you, have you ever seen or met that babysitter? Are you able to even corroborate her existence?
You know what? I have to because I trust my daughter.
But you've never seen, and I believe that
I've never seen her. I've never seen God, but I know He's there, okay? I mean, that's the only thing I can say. You have faith. I have faith.
Did your daughter ever talk about her before your granddaughter disappeared?
Yes, and the police are aware of that. And this person, whether her name is Danny or whatever, she's been part of conversation, normal conversation, for the last 3 years prior to Kaylee's birth. So I don't think this is somebody that's been fabricated in the last week or two to cover up tracks. So again, I don't have the strength and energy to think about this or focus.
Let me ask that question. The statement that you made there about this is a person who's been in normal conversations about 3 years prior to Kaylee's birth. Is that accurate?
No, that was a misstatement.